Sober. Now I'm always high, I can't stay sober. Now I'm always high, I can't stay sober. Now I'm always high, I can't stay sober. Kicking with the crew that's about getting over. Now I'm always high, I can't stay sober. Now I'm always high, I can't stay sober. Now I'm always high, I can't stay sober. Kicking with the crew that's about getting over.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for taking time out to join us today. My name is Randy Goodwin. I am the president and owner of PRI Productions, and we're actually in PRI Productions office right now. We have just a very small group of people that are here, and we are definitely being social distance, and we hope that you're doing the same and you're doing it on a regular basis. This is really cool because today we're going to spend the next hour here talking with the president and the CEO of JAX Chamber, Daniel Davis. And I think it's really cool that he's going to take time out because as I've been talking to him, and many of y'all I'm sure have been talking to him too, there's so many things that he is sharing with us. I think it'd be really helpful and needed to actually share all the things he's hearing and what all the plans are happening with the chamber. So, hey, Daniel.
Andy, it's great to see you.
This is really cool that you're going to spend some time and talk to us. And also, how are you doing?
You know, we're doing really good. We believe that, number one, the family's doing great. And everybody has been healthy through this process. And I know it's been rough for a lot of families out there and a lot of young parents that are trying to help kids finish school and do their work at the same time. So I just want to say a big thank you to all of the folks out there that have worked hard to do that. But now we're transitioning back. And so we're very excited about that. And I want to ask you, we got to spend a little bit of time together via Zoom. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I will tell you, I appreciate the fact that you called in to talk to my staff, and I thought that was really cool. But I've also attended some of the chamber webinars that you're doing. And at least it's a little bit different for you today because we're not in your backyard with your birds.
Right.
Because your birds were sometimes louder than your voice was. So I'm sure it feels good to get out of the house. And I know that you were telling me how you've done well and your family's doing really well, which is awesome and great. But I'm sure it, like me, it feels good to be out of the house, even though we got to still be cautious in the things that we're doing. But I'm doing well. The company, it's been tough, and it's been really tough because I had no idea in my situation, and I would think many of the people that are tuning in right now are dealing with what we're dealing with is when the business just sort of went away because what was going on, it just went away. I mean, it was just like all at once, and I have to compare it to sadly when 9/11 happened, how it's just like all at once everything just went away. What bothers me, which I would think a lot of other business owners would say, when people come up to you and say, you really should have prepared for this. for a pandemic. Are you serious?
Yeah.
There was no way to do it. But at the beginning, I did what most people did. You did what you had to do the furloughing and everything else, and then it really felt like cutting off my arm. It really felt I can't do this. I need my staff. I need that strength. I need their creative. I need their thoughts. I need all that. So we did everything we could do and get us back together. I kept a small group, and then I said we got to get them all back. And it's been. I don't want to say that we're doing great, because by no means are we doing great. We're surviving, and we did what we had to do as a company. That there will be a PRI in the future, but we're going to look like I don't know. You see it where at the beginning everybody all looks really nice and clean, and after we go through all this, the hair's everywhere, the makeup's everywhere,
Right.
the lipstick's all over the place, but we're alive.
Yeah. Well, you'd rather be alive than not. So I'm pretty excited about what the future looks like. And listen, Randy, the chamber is very similar to PRI. We do events, we do people things, and it's been very difficult for us because when you can't sit with somebody and see what their body language is like, and welcome your friends and connect, it's been tough for us too. And so I feel what you're going through, and I can't wait to get things back up and running.
I did. In 1994, we started my company, and the first thing I did was get active in area councils of the chamber. And that was actually where I got to meet people. And I recognize the fact that all this virtual stuff, I mean, my phone is ringing like crazy. Everybody in this company is dealing with everybody that's wanting to do virtual. But I can tell you, PRI, I don't see a path that PRI would be where PRI is if everything had to be Zoom calls. I need to meet people.
Right.
I need to understand who they are, the personalities, what it is they're looking for. And we miss that. And I'm going to ask you more about that in a minute. But I want to go ahead and go into our first sort of question here. So businesses are starting to reopen.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the same. You're in a lot of conversations. Overall, as you probably are talking to more small business people than you probably ever have your entire life, I would assume.
We are.
I bet you are. So you think we're ready? What's your concern, other than the fact that we might not be as social distance as we need to be? Are we ready for this?
Well, I think first of all, safety and the health of our employees is paramount. And I know you look at your employees like family, and that's the way you feel. I, of course, have put the proper protocols in place to reopen the chamber. And we want to lead at the chamber to show other folks in the corporate setting that it's safe and you can be productive, and we can get things back to a semblance of normalcy over the next month or so. We opened up our offices, and we were for a while having 50% of the employees come in on Monday, Wednesdays, and then Tuesday, Thursdays. But now we're up and running, and we have lots of protocols in place. I think we're ready to get things back up and running. And I think the month of June, in my opinion, should be a month of transition.
Before this pandemic hit, I know that you tried, and probably successfully tried with some of the people that would actually work from home. Whatever your thoughts were, I'm sure they're different now. What are your thoughts about that? Because I'm hearing a lot about, we've been educated over the last 3 months that we don't always have to be in the same room to get some work done, or always in the same building. I'm curious, what have you found?
We absolutely have seen that our chamber employees have been extremely productive working from home. I sat, and you mentioned sitting in my backyard. I couldn't go in the house because I had all my kids studying and dogs, so that just wasn't going to work. But being out in the back, I haven't spent that much time in a backyard at any time, and I was able to get a lot of work done. And so it not necessarily have to be back at the office to be productive. And I think we should balance that approach. We should listen to what the advice that our employees are giving us, but we also need to lead. And like us, we do a business that has to have people together. So there's going to be a balanced approach to it, but I do think you can see employees being productive, not necessarily in the traditional format.
I've talked, and even in my situation, I've talked to more business owners in the community and all over the state, more than I ever have before, that were friends of mine. And I am recognizing I'm one of these people that I can say that I feel closer to my staff than I ever have, because I'm talking to them and I'm over the Zoom calls. It's driving me nuts. So what I keep doing when I was at home, I would move to different rooms just to feel like I'm moving around. So every time I'm calling in, I'm calling from a different place just to feel like I'm not just planted on, on a chair or a couch for like 8 hours. The interesting part about home, I don't know when to quit.
Yeah.
You just keep on going. So in some sense, I've never worked so hard for nothing in my entire life.
Right. But you're built to work, and I think that working from home can blur lines sometimes, especially with families. I think that we need to try to get back to normal as much as possible.
Now here's a big, okay, you're looking into your crystal ball.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way that anybody can hold you to this, because nobody knows. What's your prediction at this moment? And I'm sure it changes every time you watch the news. What's your prediction of the whole rest of this year, 2020? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we are poised in Northeast Florida to be much more successful than other places because of our diversified economy, the land space that we have, to where we aren't living right on top of each other in many cases. There is a good story to tell about Jacksonville. So I think that we have the opportunity to rebound quickly. I believe the month of June should be a month of transition back into the workplace and getting back to a sense of normalcy. Obviously, it slows down a little bit in July for most of us because people are on vacations. And then I could see really hitting it hard in August and into the fall. I believe we will be back this fall and end the year strong. That's my opinion. And I believe it's because we live in the great city with a diversified economy, and we're not dependent on one industry to pull us through.
Well, I'm going to hang on to your opinion, and I hope that's true as we keep moving forward. A lot of the events that we were a part of, that all just kept moving. The first time they were moving everything was actually to the summer. We've already had several that are moving on to the fall or even after that. And I can't help but to think, look, all I got to do in my mind is just stay alive between now and then, and just try to make sure that we can hang in there, because we are having a lot of conversation with people that are looking towards us, but it might not be today, but there is going to come a day soon that I think we're going to be, and we are still poised to have an outstanding July and August, but it is with some sense of hesitation, obviously.
Randy, you think about great figures in history, in business. Many times in their careers, their whole goal was just to stay alive. Keep their head down, persevere, plow through this. And then you're going to come out on the other side stronger than you were before. That's what I'm seeing happening. And we have this opportunity that we just need to, as an organization, I would love to talk to all of our folks right now, just plow through it, stay alive, focus, and we're going to come through it. So
when I started, we were doing all from home. And then we started at the point that I started doing sporadic hours with some staff. And then I'm trying to figure out, I kept searching like crazy. I bet you a lot of people were doing it, trying to figure out what's our process of how we're going to bring some of our staff back under the limited hours, which we are still at. So we got the mask. I mean, we got some of the Jaguar ones, I have some PRI ones, I have some of those medical masks. I put disinfectant everywhere. I put tissues all over the place, everything I can think of. I do have prepared right now with the temperature, but there's not a whole lot of us in any area anytime. And if they are working in certain areas, I'm telling everybody to leave their area alone and let that be their safe sort of area to do it. What are you doing when it comes to your staff, and how are you managing it? And can you share with us, under your leadership, what did you unveil that would make them feel safe and comfortable to come back?
It's a great question. And truthfully, the first time we started talking about it with staff, our leadership team received feedback from staff that made us step back and say, hold on, let's just wait a week, because everybody's not comfortable yet. And so that was fine. And we wanted to feel like there was communication lines back and forth. in receiving good advice from our staff about how they would feel comfortable moving back into the workplace. But we test, we have a thermometer when you first come in and make sure everybody that's coming in isn't running a fever. We have a hand sanitizer everywhere in the organization. We have protocols with masks that if you're sitting at your desk working, you don't have to wear a mask. If you're up and about, you need to put your mask on. And we also have folks that either have family members that are high risk or they could be high risk. And I'm going to be very, very flexible with those folks. And so we believe the protocols have been successful so far, and we're willing to adjust along the way and make changes along the way, be flexible.
I am, when I was searching about how to bring them back, I kept hearing all the legal side of, well, this is what has to be done, and if they don't want it, but I'm like, you can't be that way. I just couldn't be that way. You got to figure out what is right for everybody, because it did, other than just saying across the board, this is how it is, you had to have some flexibility. I found that within my own company. So although when you Google search some things, there can be some hard lines up there. Did you deal with any of that? That you're just having to show some flexibility in regards to how people are adjusting and dealing with that?
Of course. And I think that the reason the governor and the mayor have not set hard and fast rules that must be adhered to, they've set guidelines, broad guidelines and best practices. And each organization like PRI or manufacturing companies or Best Bet or restaurants, they all have a little bit different idiosyncrasies, and you should take the guidelines that have been posted and adjust that for your organization to where it fits and it makes sense for your employees. And we believe that employers are going to make the right decision about how and when to bring their employees back, how to reach the right protocols when they come back, and follow the guidelines that have been set, because some smart people have talked through that. I'll give you an example. We were walking through on the mayor's advisory committee on houses of worship. And as we all know, houses of worship were never shut down. Now, there were limits on the amount of people you could have in any gathering, but there was always the opportunity to go to a house of worship. Now we're starting to look at how you repopulate and move back into say worship with your church friends. And there was at first this discussion of 25% capacity, but all of the experts were talking about the 25% capacity is just a guideline. The real issue is making sure you social distance when you get. Can you imagine 25% come in and they sit all together? You're not solving anything. The idea is to have family groups together and then spread out. And so I think that there are ways that we can continue to adjust, but it's different for everybody.
What I found interesting, years ago, being very active in the Christian community and all that stuff, when I worked a lot with churches, with everything that's happened with PRI, and now where we are right now, I've helped a lot of churches reconnect with their streaming, because they were sort of doing it, but they needed to. So we got really involved in all of that. So 2 major churches in the city, you know what I was concerned about? Of all the nonprofits that are not able to have their events or be able to do their fundraising, the amount of giving, and everybody being concerned about their financial future. What was very cool for me to hear is 2 major churches in our city, the actual giving is up.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
I've heard that.
And I'm like, I would have never guessed that one, but that's awesome.
I get you get those, you can start doing it, giving by text. You can give where they automatically pull it out of your checking account every month, or however it works. They've made it easier for folks. And I think some reluctant churches that can't imagine collecting an offering without an offering plate have learned that you can find new ways to make sure you support the ministry.
When it comes to all the events that the chamber does, is actually trying to connect people with people in the business community. You've had to have countless number of discussions with your staff about how the programs and the events are going to change or adapt. And I'm curious if you could share any part of that conversation about what y'all are considering, because I really think all of us want to know what you're thinking.
At first we were looking at June having our first in-person meetings in June. We polled many of our members, and I don't think they were ready for that yet. So we're going to offer what our customers want. And so we're looking at the first part of July to have our first in-person meetings, and continue to let us work virtually in the month of June, have smaller get-togethers, but our first real chamber function is going to be in
Is that going to be
July.
a smaller chamber function? I mean, are you going to just do multiple smaller ones, or what do you?
Well, I think we're going to be reasonable. I wouldn't say it's just going to be 10 people. It's going to be larger than that, but we're going to make sure that we're in a facility that that you have adequate distance, and we're following guidelines that keep all of our members safe.
I found strength in so many things. My staff first and foremost, but talking to other people that are either in my industry or not in my industry, talking to what they're going through to feel like that we're all in this together. I think that's going to, that need for that connection is going to get stronger, because it's going to be tough. This comeback is not, even if the business comes back, just adjusting to this fast moving world. So I look forward to that. And I do find that when I'm talking to people, how that helps me when I get off the phone. It just makes me feel, because when you're home by yourself and you're on these Zoom calls and stuff, and you get out the phone, you're back there with yourself, and you're dealing with a lot of challenges. Yeah. So I do find that that very, very helpful. Is there anything specific for small businesses? Well, you know what, I'm going to reword that. I'm going to say it this way. Tell me about the area councils. What's all happening with them?
Still connecting, still meeting, all virtual. But we plan on ramping those up as quickly as possible, because we do believe that the area councils are largely made up of small businesses, and that networking opportunity and connection is in many ways the way they keep their business moving forward. And so we know how critical that is.
I hope they're doing really good, and I hope that the people are calling in and realizing that, because a lot of the area councils do find, when they're all getting together, they all find strength within that networking. Yeah. And right now we probably need it more than ever.
I don't know if you knew this, Randy, but I was at the Northeast Florida Builders Association for about 14 years, and we were there during the real estate meltdown. And in many ways, Jacksonville was ground zero. And like you said, it didn't just kind of turn off. The faucet didn't just turn off. It just stopped one day, and nobody was buying a house. And the organization became the comforter in many ways for the people that were hurting so bad. And they found that their family, their industry family, could help them get through by being together and talking. And in many ways, I feel like the chamber is going to be able to fulfill that role for folks when tough times come. Okay, let's all convene and let's get together, and we can get through this together and encourage each other. And I think we were made to connect like that. And I'm looking forward to that challenge. And I think the staff at the chamber and the members of the chamber are up to it.
I appreciate everything that our mayor is doing. I appreciate everything that our sheriff is doing. But from a purely business perspective, never have I felt more wanting to lean on the chamber and your leadership to try to be creative and keep sharing thoughts with us, because this has really been something, and it's been something for a lot of businesses that are happening. You know, yesterday the governor announced that we're moving into phase 2. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Right. And I was trying to understand, even about a month or two, when we were in an enhanced phase 1, I guess we went to, and then we went to phase 2. So now, you know, these bowling alleys and movie theaters, entertainment venues, finally the bars get to open and everything like that. I mean, I'm excited, little hesitant, but excited. Right. I'm excited because, you know, it's sort of not fair that some can open and some can't, but I understand why. Right. And I was watching the news and I was seeing how they were, you know, this isn't fair. Well, to some extent, I recognize that this whole pandemic thing is not fair. Right. I'm glad that they get to open. What do you see, and what are your thoughts about this phase 2, and what are you thinking?
It's funny, this morning, we're trying to decide what we were going to do this weekend, and we're doing everything we can. Our daughters are older and a little bit more independent at this point. They don't need mom and dad as much. And the boys, we're trying to find out what can we do with them this weekend, because it looks like it's going to rain a lot. And so I was like, what a better opportunity. I said, you know, we could go bowling, we can go to movies, and I can take the boys and we get tattoos. And she looked at me like, man, you are crazy. So hey, the Davises might, you know, get tattoos this weekend. I don't know, but I think we'll probably end up doing something like that, the bowl or to a movie, because we've missed those activities, and I think it's time for us to go out and support those organizations. So maybe we could make a fun weekend out of some rain.
I want to. Yeah, I've talked to several restaurants and some all these places that have servers or other places. You know, they're struggling trying to bring not just their staff back, but they're having help wanted, and they're trying to find the necessary. So when I start recognizing that's what's going to happen tomorrow, there's a lot of places that said until I can get the staff in place, I can't do all the things that I need to do. Have y'all talked about that?
Yeah, there's going to be ramp up time. Just like, for example, many of our members are restaurants and hospitality organizations, and we put a program together to try to get folks to take out on Tuesdays. Yeah. And I just want to say how much I appreciate the chamber members, because there was so much activity, and I believe they really helped in many cases keep doors open by supporting the restaurants that they loved and the people that served them so well over the years. So I think we have to be intentional about this and how we can help support the entertainment venues that we really appreciate, and make sure that we look out for our fellow small businesses in Jacksonville, and we can do that.
I'm concerned when any business that doesn't make it right now, and how that sort of impacts all of us. I get very concerned. And so actually, to the point I've been saying it often, there's no competition right now. Again, we just all need to sort of support each other and try to do as much as we possibly can to support the local businesses. But when these restaurants that I like, when they opened up for so no lines, no waiting, that's awesome. Now I think the lines are going to be coming back.
I think it's coming back.
But
I went to grab lunch yesterday, and over in Brooklyn, and pulled in the parking lot, and it was packed. I loved seeing. It used to be it's hard to find a parking place, and then there was a time there where we were picking up lunch, and there was a parking place anywhere you wanted to park, and there was nothing yesterday. So I think people are ready. I think people want to get out there and support those restaurants, and you could tell yesterday with a full parking lot that people were out there helping support them.
Is the JAX Chamber, are y'all planning, y'all talking about how you're going to be able to further help businesses come out of this pandemic? I like all the rest of these businesses. I mean, we're looking for information. We're looking for opportunity. And I'm going to ask you a few more questions about how I'm trying to find my information, which everybody else is to have. How is the chamber going to be able to help us in regards to information? I would assume more than anything.
We are already shifting to virtual platforms to make sure that we can get more reach, and we're seeing more reach. These webinars that we've had over the last couple months, Randy, there were hundreds and hundreds of people on these webinars hungry for information and help. And so our Jax Bridges programs, we're gonna continue having in-person cohorts for Jax Bridges, but we're going to also add in virtual opportunities for businesses that maybe the best landscaper you could ever find, but have a hard time keeping their business model running right. And we're going to help all of those folks. And many of them are small, many of them are minority-owned businesses. And I really believe we're standing in the gap in many ways to help them stay in business and successful in the future and grow their business. So we're gonna look at those opportunities. We're not gonna stop the momentum to meet together, but we're gonna also offer virtual opportunities for education and reach out. And in some cases, we need to figure out ways to help folks be members of the chamber that maybe can't afford it. And so that's something we're looking at.
I'm going to certain restaurants now where when I say mom and pop sort of restaurant, I'm talking mom and pop.
Right.
And you know, they always probably struggled to stay around, but they've been around for years.
Yeah.
They didn't have a lot set aside to keep going, and they're hanging in there.
Yeah.
I feel compelled to make sure that I'm trying to go to these places and trying to keep them going, because that's got to be tough. I was talking to a gentleman that owns a barbecue place in the area of town where I live in, and they were struggling getting the product and the meat that they would needed without it being like astronomically priced. And they're like, that's no way to treat our customers. So they're trying to figure out, aside from getting the necessary staffing, from also getting the product that they would wind up needing.
And many of us don't even think about that when we walk in.
Yeah.
You know, we're worried about our issues, and we go in trying to help, and you don't even think about what they're doing to struggle to find the product that they need. I actually haven't even thought about that until you just brought it up. So, yeah.
You were invited to be part of the mayor's advisory group working on the reopening of our city. Now, there's no doubt your value on that was from a business perspective, but I would of course believe that overall with our entire community, you've heard lots of conversations about all of that. I would love for you to try to give us any insight or anything that you're hearing or thoughts of how the meetings and the conversations are going. What is y'all's biggest challenge? What are y'all trying to figure out how we overcome it? Where do you think we are with all this?
Yeah, I number one want to thank Mayor Curry for pulling a group together to give a little bit of advice. There were no votes taken. There were no committees that we put together, but it was just a group of folks that were experts in their fields to kind of give advice in this process and transition. And I appreciate him for thinking about me. And I think this group was very successful, and a bunch of volunteers who wanted to make it better for the community. And you would have been very, very impressed if you could have heard some of the conversations that went on. And the discussion we had healthcare experts that really focused on reentry into the workplace and making sure it was safe, and creating some best practices to do that. People can access that at the chamber if they would like to have ideas on how they should reopen their organization. The group talked through what kind of ways can the city and the independent authorities help spur the economy. And I think the mayor is going to look at some of those options in the future. Another thing that we walked through was sometimes it's hard for a small business to procure work from a government entity. How can we make those things and those processes easier and safer, faster, and more efficient? And you know, we've made a couple suggestions. We'll see what the mayor thinks about those. And then the other thing that we looked at was, you know, in this time, obviously, it's very difficult for most. How do we make sure government runs efficiently? The revenue streams that the government has, what they can do to put more jobs out on the street. And so we'll see where that goes. And I just am honored to be a part of it. And I think good things will come from it.
Anything else you think that what do you see would be next that would possibly be positive in regards to things we can grab onto about the coming back of all of this?
Okay. When I was driving over here this morning, driving over the Fuller Warren Bridge, I glance over to downtown Jacksonville, and I see probably 7 cranes in the air.
There you go. That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we all have talked about the development of downtown and how important it is to have a vibrant urban center so we can attract the talent to this community that needs to be here, we always talk about cranes being in the air. And once you get a couple cranes, you're going to start getting more. I challenge anybody to drive down and look, and you would be encouraged to see what's going on. And I know that there's more coming. You know, you talk to Brian Wolfe, CEO of ViStar, who is making a huge impact in downtown Jacksonville. No plans to pull back. Obviously, he's going to be smart about timing, but there's no plans to pull back on his big move and what they're doing downtown with their corporate relocation. You know, you got FIS, who's building their corporate headquarters in downtown Jacksonville, the global leader in point of sale and fintech is right here in Jacksonville. And you're going to see continued growth with these fintech companies realizing the amount of talent that we have and coming here because it's going to breed more opportunity. And you can produce a product here at a much more reasonable rate than you can in New York City. And you have much more room to work. Think about the story that we have to tell. I just think it's an opportunity for us to take advantage of and to tell our story. I'll tell you this. We, during this pandemic, have landed around over 900 jobs in this community, JAX USA partnership, and the announcements that we've made.
Within what time?
Let's just say the first part of the year. Okay. There are projects in the pipeline that will help us blow through our goals for the year of 2,500 jobs announced through JAX USA in partnership with the mayor's office and the governor's office. Blow through those numbers in the pipeline. So people are looking at Jacksonville, and the pandemic hasn't slowed it down, or hasn't slowed any of that process down. Our economic development folks are as busy as they've ever been because of inquiries.
So that means that the businesses, wherever they are, if they're wanting to relocate or expand here in Jacksonville, if you're saying they're busier than they've ever been, that the phone is still somewhat ringing. There's a lot of conversations still going on, and I guess they're just waiting for that opportunity, is what you're saying. So they're still busy doing all this. I would have thought.
Me too.
It would have just been, you know, I'll get back with you.
I thought the exact same thing. I thought, oh man, we're never going to reach our numbers this year because we're all driven by the goals that we have to meet for the year. And lo and behold, we've been rocking right along, and our team has been as busy as ever. Now we're not traveling to places and selling Jacksonville like we normally would. Like we didn't go to the air show. We're not going to go this summer. You know, obviously the Jags aren't playing in London, so we're not going to make that trip and do our economic development mission there. But that hasn't slowed down what our investors want to see, and that is new jobs coming to this community. And I don't think it's going to slow down the rest of the year. You're going to continue to see announcements throughout this year of people moving their companies or growing their companies in this city.
You said I can ask you anything, so I'm going to ask you this one. What'd you hear about Parking Lot J? Any latest updates before when they get that back going again?
Well, obviously that's a discussion that the mayor is heavily mixed with right now.
Could that be because is this a result of the pandemic, you think, or is just some other challenges they're trying to overcome?
Well, I think everybody's I'm not going to speak for the electeds that we have in town or the Jags. What I can tell you is it makes sense in a situation like this that let's all find our footing, okay, and then let's move forward. The first major step to that is taking down the Hurt Bridge overpass, and that is happening right now. That's the number one. You cannot develop with underneath an overpass. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that was the first step of bringing down that infrastructure and getting the infrastructure in place to move forward. And I think there's going to be, I've heard exciting conversation. You know, listen, the Chamber's taking their leadership trip this year to St. Louis. And one of the main reasons why Ray Driver decided to do that was because of the Cordish development right around the stadium in St. Louis. And we're going to stay at the hotel right in that development. And you can see how they've taken a parking lot and made it an amazing entertainment facility. And that's exactly what we want to do here. And I think that the opportunity for growth will happen.
When I went there where the Patriots play, and I went there to watch them when the Jaguars were in the playoffs, oh my gosh, that was awesome what they did. And so I've seen some of the plans. I've seen some of what Jackson was sort of planning to happen with Parking Lot J. I mean, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Because I know we've talked about having our true entertainment district for so long and stuff like that, but of course, we were disappointed when we realized that it was sort of put on hold for a little while. We hope it comes back soon to get back on track. But we need it.
Yeah.
And we've needed it for quite some time. I will tell you, within the Jaguars, knowing my relationship that my company has with them, we put together 100 different options of things. And I know that they got to get probably their direction from the NFL. as they would move it. But now they've been given some permission to have certain smaller events that would happen inside there, and they're taking this very serious, which I think is great about ASM with how they're trying to make sure that everybody's going to feel safe and be safe when they go to the stadium or all the sort of city managed facilities that ASM manages over. But it's nice to be able to talk about possible events that can happen even in the next couple of weeks. They'll just be smaller events before they wind up growing.
We're going to get back to normal. We have to. We can't live sheltered. And I think that if we do it the right way and are patient about it, we're going to be stronger than we have ever been.
Any casualties in regards to some of the expanding sort of scenarios of people that were looking to come here or something? Were there any of them that just sort of did say they're going to wait?
No, we win more than our fair share. And I would tell you, when people get a chance to hear our story and understand what we're about and the type of people we have in this community, we are very, very successful. So, I mean, I think that business decisions are going to be made by folks that might not be in this community, and they may choose a different city to move to or to expand in. But we've done very, very well.
How did the JAX USA partnership virtual luncheon do? What's your it had to be quite different.
It absolutely was different, but you have about several hundred folks participating. It was very good information, and it's just not quite the same as when you go in the room and have 500 members of the business community there looking at how they can make the city grow. So we look forward to that opportunity.
Is there anything that you can share with us about what Mayor Curdy and the city is doing about how to help the businesses? And I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean by that. I think I'm fishing for more and more information, like most businesses in our community are. Without certain opportunities that were presented to businesses like the PPP and everything else that was all out there. You know, you were given at the beginning, you know, what, your 8 weeks or whatever it was. Well, we're not back yet. The world's not back yet. Now, they might have made it to where they're going to let it go a little bit longer. But of course, if I could go back to the beginning of that, I probably would have made certain different decisions.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my gosh, in the midstream, I appreciate what the government has done, but at the same point right now, you can't go back and undo decisions. Yeah. But the money is going to be challenged for so many businesses this year. I keep that are here, even in our community. There has to be some other type of help that's sitting out there for businesses. If not, I'm concerned about the amount of unemployment that's already there and how that can this glass floor could collapse. Mm-hmm. And then it could just absolutely just be unimaginable what would happen to businesses everywhere. So what are you hearing about how our city, our state, our federal government, any other opportunity you feel that you have been participated or have heard about in discussions to keep these businesses going as business starts to, we got to get weaned off of it. Mm-hmm. But you can't just cut us dry right now. We can't live world. I mean, the world is not going to be in the way it needs to be. So what are you hearing?
Well, I know the city council has passed legislation to help individuals and small business move forward. But like you said, at some point, they can't continue to do that. The government isn't made to continue those processes of being a stopgap measure. And now they've done that. And at some point, like you said, we got to start getting back to business as closely to usual as possible. I mean, I think that there's opportunities for capital improvement programs. I think that there's opportunities for training. The governor has been in town looking at how and made announcements at the chamber, matter of fact, on how we can train to fill these fintech jobs that are continuing to grow. We need to make sure that if the market is shifting, that we're training folks that need help with a job can get a job. It's going to be tough for a while, and I think that we have to do everything we can to help work together to pull ourselves through. But
you think there'll be another version of the PPP? You ever heard talk of it? Anything like that?
I've heard of the fourth tranche of PPP, but with the way things are in DC right now, I wouldn't count on that.
Why isn't the world running out of money? I don't understand all of it. I mean, when you think about the small dollars everybody's dealing with and the crazy kind of money that's just flowing everywhere, why are we not running out of money, folks? The world.
There are some industries in Jacksonville that are doing very well, and their businesses are thriving. I've talked to construction, commercial and residential. They're continuing to see traffic, continuing to sell. There are industries that are thriving through this time, and that I think can help pull through some of the companies and industries that are hurting right now, like hospitality and entertainment. So I think that we need to continue helping those that are thriving, but we need to make sure that none of the businesses that are really hurting right now don't get what they need as well.
So you may have heard me make the statement before that when people would ask me what PRI Productions does for a living, I would say, well, when a gathering of people come together, there's a purpose for PRI. Never understood that was going to be a point that it was going to be illegal for a group of people to get together, because then there's no purpose for PRI. I mean, so I'm like, oh my God, that statement came back to haunt me. But as I think about it, looking forward, not just PRI, but the entire community benefits from Florida, Georgia, Gator Ball, Jaguar games, all this stuff. So the hotels, the taxi drivers. I mean, I saw the airport press conference yesterday. I'm sure you saw it and all too. And everybody it benefits from all of that. Well, when I'm thinking about Florida, Georgia, and my company's so involved with what happens all there around the stadium, man, that's tough to vision right now. But we depend on that, meaning our community depends on that stuff. Any discussions that you have been, any thoughts about what's supposedly, as the schools talk to us, as Rick Catlett said, anything about Gator Ball? I mean, these massive amount of people that just drive in, drop off their money and go back home. I mean, that's nice, but that's limiting. I mean, we might not be able to do all of that. What do you think?
Well, I think, like I said, we should transition to where we can do all of those events, and I hope that we can, and do it in a way that makes sense and can still create economic activity in this community. I will reiterate what I said earlier. We can't live life sheltered in place. You can't. Yeah. At some point, we have to get out there and we have to re-engage. And I would tell you, yesterday, trying to find a parking place at the lunch that I was trying to get made me think people are re-engaging and they're ready to get back out there. And I think that we also have to remember there are folks out there that are scared of COVID-19 and they're not ready to get back out there. And we have to be understandable about that and in the workplace and make sure that we're flexible too. But I think we're ready to start transitioning. We need to pick up momentum, and the chamber wants to lead the way on that. And that's why we've publicly opened our offices, and we're going to be safe, but we want to show all of the professional organizations in downtown that it is safe to do this, and it is good to do this. And it is not necessarily good to stay sheltered, and we're not going to be able to do that for the rest of our lives. So let's get moving.
I'm surprised we don't hear more about the amount of depression from people that are just staring at their four walls. I will tell you, when PRI started getting a little bit of work here and there over the last couple of weeks, it felt good to get back to work. Yeah. It felt good to get out of the house and do some things. We're just having to maybe do it a little bit different within the social distancing sort of fashion, but it just personally just feels good to feel productive other than just sitting in a chair. It was a good feeling. I got tired. As I get older, I bounce back as much, but it was worth it. It was definitely something.
You know, the biggest loser in transitioning back to the office is my dog, Teddy Bear, because he loves coming to the office. And so when I would come into the office, I was the only one there. And so obviously, Teddy Bear, come on, let's go. She ran straight to the elevator, knew exactly when the elevator was going to open up, where to go when she got off on the third floor, and she would run and sit underneath my desk the whole time I was working. And now she's kind of looking at me when I'm walking out the door going, come on, man, why can't I keep going with you? I'm not sure all my staff is ready for Teddy Bear to run around while they're there, but yeah, she's the biggest loser.
We talked about a lot of things that the chamber is working on to try to help small businesses. Is there anything that you didn't mention that you would like to point out about what the chamber is doing for small businesses, or could be doing, or open discussions or opportunities? Anything else? Because we've covered a lot, but is there anything else?
Yeah, we're going to continue plugging away, Randy. I'm excited about what the future holds. I'm excited about the progression in downtown. That's not going to slow down. That's going to continue moving forward. And just like we mentioned earlier, we are bringing jobs to this community, even in the middle of this crisis. And I would say this, the last several days have been, in my opinion, a national crisis. And we have to, as an organization and as a business community, take action. And I think part of that is, for me, the first part is trying to understand more about the issues that are going on out there. And I want to be a listener, and I want to make sure that when we move forward as an organization and as a business community to help everyone in our community to be successful and have hope about the future, that we're at the forefront of that action, not just talk, but really making a difference. So, I think that it's time for people who love other people to step up, and I think there's great hope in good education and a good job.
When I go to the restaurants or I'm talking to business, you know what? I'm going to ask you a question about who would have ever guessed, by the way, that the pandemic would have been not the top story right now. That's crazy that we're dealing with that. And then you watch the news and they keep telling you about the hurricane forecast for this year. It's like, okay, this is just crazy with what's going on in the world right now. But I will tell you, aside from what's happened in the last week, when I have gone out or I've gone to stores, which has been limiting, which has been a very small amount, I've noticed the people that work at the restaurants are kinder. I'm finding the customers and myself, we're being kinder. We seem to have a new appreciation. And I've pointed that out a few times, and I'm like, we're smiling. It's good to see everybody. The workers are glad to see us. We're glad to see them. We have a whole new appreciation. You remember when it first started coming and you were doing your Takeout Tuesdays, and I was one of the ones that was doing that. And if you weren't getting your food in 10 minutes, like, where is it? Where is it? It's amazing how patient we suddenly became, waiting, and with appreciation that we know what you're dealing with. I hope we can hang on to that after all of that we can be a kinder world.
And there's no doubt that the citizens of Jacksonville are special people. Yeah. And we have won many corporate headquarter relocations based on the interactions the CEOs have had with our people and how they say this place is different. And I think that we need to continue proving that and make sure that every neighborhood has a chance to be successful, and every person that is in our community has a chance to be successful. And we can do that. We can. And I look forward to being a little part of that and to make a difference, in even if it's in a little way, in people's lives.
The story, we're on the last few minutes here, but the top story right now, I guess I feel to at least acknowledge what's happening in the world right now that just came out and is dominating the headlines everywhere right now. There's nothing you or I or anybody's going to say that's going to make this go away right now within the challenges that's even causing all the protests and all to happen. I'm concerned about how that could affect the pandemic, and that what we see on the news about the reported cases right now might not be telling us the two stories. So if I did have a fear, my fear is going to be 2 weeks from now, what's coming out. I support protest. I don't support the violence. I think it's what most people in the planet would believe. I am concerned about the two sort of affecting each other like this. What are your thoughts on this? I'm very concerned because we were moving really good in a good direction, and then this could step us back.
Yeah, yeah. You know, there have been crises in every stage of human history, and it really is incredibly important to react the right way and to be compassionate and to strive to listen and to try to understand what someone in a different neighborhood is going through different than the way I grew up on the west side of Jacksonville. And I think if we all do that and try to seek to understand, that is going to help solve a lot of our issues. And that's what I'm going to do. My family is going to do that. And maybe it starts with just some, and we learn to grow as a community, but something has to change. And it's not right now. And we need to make it right and figure out how to do that and give people hope.
It is something that I realize that it might not be able to, the protests are eventually going to subside in regards to being a daily part of our headlines. But I hope this time that there can be not just, it starts with conversations, but we need to see some real activity. And my first thought is, and I'm sure you've thought about this many times too, we got to get people registered to vote. They have to vote. They have to get involved. We need some real positive change, not just a couple of tokenish sort of committees and groups. We need action. And I'm hoping that can happen during the midst of all of this. But there's, as a small business owner in our community, and as pretty much everyone that's listening to us right now is also representing small business, we look to you to help put the dots together and get us all in the room together, because there's we can do our part to make sure that the change that is needed is moving the right direction. But it's going to be very easy for the next headline to start taking it. But we need to do this so it's going to continue like it is. And enough is enough. We need to see some real change. And it's not easy, because anytime you try to change anything, there's going to be some resistance, but it has to happen.
And I'll be honest with you. I don't know what the call to action is. Yeah. And I'm okay admitting that I don't know. That's why we as an organization need to seek to understand what that call to action should be. And there will be a call to action for the business community. And I think government plays its role. And I think the business community can play a role. And there will be an opportunity for all of us to step up and make a difference.
There's no way the mayor and or the sheriff can make these changes without our full support and without us in many ways also leading the way to be able to make this. Anyway, I want to wrap this up because I know everybody's got to get back to trying to make sure that they can get back to their business. Is there anything that you didn't say or that I didn't ask that you would like to sort of comment on about all of this?
Usually when a reporter asks me that at the end of the interview, I go,
I'm not a reporter.
I'm good. I don't have anything else to say, because you always get yourself in trouble when you keep talking. And no, I am just thankful for the opportunity. I grew up in Jacksonville. I love this city. I love business and what it does to create jobs and puts food on the table for people. I love it. I love what I do. And it's not always great. We've got great things that we've been able to do in Jacksonville, but it's not always that way. We're going to have trials, and we're going to have to walk through the fire. And I think it's not all bad. to have trials.
Yeah.
It makes us stronger when we come through the other side. And so I guess my encouragement to you today personally, and to the folks of the chamber is that we will come through this stronger than we were before. And there's no doubt in my mind. And some pain sometimes is good for us to get our perspective right. And we're going to move forward. I love serving the people of the chamber.
That's awesome.
And I appreciate you being my friend.
I will tell you, I'm going to be a smarter businessman after all this.
Yeah.
Because I have dove into certain things that were automated, and I'm sure everybody's done that with their business. I've done my share, and it is making me a smarter, better businessman. Maybe not the smartest businessman, but smarter than I was before all of this. So thank you so much for spending time with us. I think it's cool. I think you're definitely the right person for the right time in your leadership role. We are going to look to you to come up with ideas about how we're going to keep trying to open up our city and get business back to business. So thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. This is awesome. We hope you enjoyed it. I think we're going to be reposting this later if you wanted to see this later, if you didn't get a chance to see the whole thing or wanted to share this with someone else. So again, thank you, Daniel. This is awesome. And y'all have a great day. Let's get to work. Bye.